Ciao! Welcome back again. Thank you again for participating. This time we have a little more people than the last time, so we're really excited again. We're gonna introduce a few new things for this wine tasting, and you guys gonna ask me why I'm dressing up with a shirt, Hawaiian shirt. Me and my son is because it was 70 something degree today, so we wanna make it as funny as it can be. So, Hawaiian shirt. So let's get started with the first course. Is gonna be bread with rosemary and antipasto, and we're gonna start. You're gonna receive the dough like this. Then you're gonna spread them out in a metal sheet like that. Really nice. Just kind of like enough for your couple to enjoy. You can make a little bigger, you can make a little thicker. Now we gotta use the fun part. I'm using the fork so it will not race so much. So it's gonna be hopefully a really nice piece of bread with a little flavor to it. It'll be perfect with the antipasto. We're gonna put a little salt on top. If you guys have a sea salt, maybe it's better, or a little more fresh black pepper. Yeah. Then we have a little bit of rosemary, which will come with the order. Make sure you kind of like break it out. Don't leave it the way it is, just because it can be a little too much to eat.
Now we're gonna make it the pasta.
So now Giorgio and Giuliana, they're gonna help us to get the antipasto in a plate. And we're gonna have salami, prosciutto. So we have caponata and feta cheese. Caponata is like a really authentic Italian side that it comes always with the antipasto. Is capers, green olives, eggplant. We put a little bit of white vinegar and carrots and onions. Really good. And then again, you can do whatever you would like to do it. And with this first course is gonna be Villa Rosa, which is really nice Barbero d'Asti. And after you set it up this one, we're gonna put the bread in the oven.
Hello again, my name is Brock, I'm with Winebo. Thank you very much for coming out to our second virtual wine dinner. The first one was a real blast, and for those of you in attendance tonight, thank you again for coming out to the first one. I hope you guys are faring well during all of this. My gardening skills are only getting a tad bit better as the days progress, but yeah, we planted, put down 3 raised beds and got a bunch of fresh compost, starting to work that all up. And that's how we're keeping ourselves busy. All right, so let's just jump into the wines this evening. First up, we've got the Pico Macario Villa della Rosa Barbera d'Asti. This is the 2018 vintage. So the region itself is called Asti, that exists in the northern grape-growing region of Piedmonte. And this producer, Pico Macario, they own 70 hectares, which is roughly 160 acres. But what's unique about them, those are all contiguous acres. Those are all joined acreage. So it's not something that you see too often in Piedmonte, let alone in the wine world in general. That's a fair chunk of land. These guys are Barbera specialists. Everything that they do, 90% of what they do is Barbera based. And the Villa della Rosa that you're trying right now, this is their young, fresh example of Barbera. There is no oak on this wine, just meant to be readily consumed and just a very fresh approach towards Barbera. I definitely recommend having this wine with a slight chill on it, especially with something like antipasto with focaccia. Just kind of a nice starter way to have your meal. Just a really kind of refreshing approach towards Barbera. It is not as well known as the regions of Barolo and Barbaresco, but Asti, again, Asti is the region, not a style of sweet wine that a lot of people, that Martini and Rossi ruined for people. Excuse me, my cat. That Martini and Rossi really ruined people's perception of what Asti is and the word itself. The region produces a lot of beautiful sweet wines. Moscato de Asti, I'm a fan of if done correctly, but this is Barbera de Asti, Barbera from the region of Asti. Please enjoy.
The second course is going to be stuffed shell arrabbiata, which in Italian means angry. Angry, which means for spicy food. So it's going to be a little bit spicy. We're going to have marinara, stuffed shell filled up with ricotta cheese. And they're going to be bacon, pepperoncino, and a little bit of crushed red pepper. And then we're going to have the cheese so you can bake and it's going to melt. It's going to be a really nice kick to it. This will be pairing with Salice Salentino, which Brooke will talk more about that one.
Okay, next up we have got Cantelli. This is Salice Salentino Reserva. This is coming from the region of Puglia. Puglia is the heel of the boot of southern Italy. It is a unique Mediterranean grape growing region. Very, very warm. Very, very ripe wines come from this region. But Cantelli, their style is a little bit more fresh. This is due to the fact that they do a lot of green harvesting, which means dropping a lot of fruit off of your grape clusters during the harvesting process. And then they also have got great canopy management. Those giant leaves that sit over top of your grape clusters, they make sure that their canopies are really shading their grape clusters during these warm growing conditions. So Negro Amaro is the main grape of Salice Salentino. You do see it blended with a little bit of Primitivo more often than not, but they have decided to do 100% Primitivo. And this is a Reserva wine in Puglia, or excuse me, in Salice Salentino. Reserve means that it has to be aged for at least 6 months in oak. You'll notice that you're drinking the 2015 vintage. This is the current vintage from the winery. And this is one of the most recognized bottlings from the region of Salice Salentino. Cantelli's been producing wines here since the late 1940s. And their style is, again, very fresh, very, very approachable. I have had wines from this region that are made a pasito, which means that they make them of the styles of Amarone, which they partially dry out some of the grapes and then ferment, which makes for a very rich, boozy type experience. This is not one of those. This is a little bit more my style of Salice Salentino. You're not lost in the mire of having something too rich on the palate. It's still very finesse and still has got great acidity to help clean up that richer fruit characteristic that you find in this wine. And this producer, again, they are one of the most recognized producers in Salice Salentino. Their total winery production is only about 200,000 cases. And we've been the national importer for this winery for about a year, but they have been in the U.S. market for about 20 years. So you might have seen this bottling around in the past. Please enjoy.
Yes, so it's going to be for the last course, comparing with the Cabernet Sauvignon. It's going to be Death by Chocolate, which will be a piece of chocolate cake. You can broken pieces and you can put in a container, and we will bake so it gets a little bit warmer and softer. Or you can even do microwave if you feel comfortable. Soon it comes out, you can put a few scoops of ice cream on top, and then that's it, and then it's time to eat the chocolate.
And then last but certainly not least, a little Cabernet Sauvignon to wash down some of that dark chocolate that you're having with your dessert tonight, or for your dessert tonight. This is Terra Noble. Terra Noble is one of our great value producers coming from the Maipi Valley of Chile. This winery was established in 1993. They have about 300 hectares in the Maipi Valley, where you see a ton of Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc being produced. Terra Noble is one of my favorite producers that we represent from Chile, due to the fact that their style is a little bit more finessed. I'm using that word once again. I do enjoy rich, full-bodied wines every once in a while, but for something that you can have multiple glasses of, this is something that's a little bit for my palate. This has got a lot of similarities in its tannic structure that you see from Bordeaux. They are not very smooth, polished tannin. There is a little bit of grip and a little bit of edge to this wine. But for its price point, I mean, I think it's a really, really great example of what good Cabernet from Chile can be. When we were first developing a wine market in the late 80s, early 90s here in Virginia, when California wines were really in, basically just some of the only ones that were being consumed in Virginia were being shipped from California. California is still a huge part of my business and very important, but Virginia and California have got very different growing subsets. And I think that Virginia has got a lot in common as far as the soil that you see in Chile, especially in the Malpe Valley. So Cabernet, if overripe, can have that kind of bell pepper greenish tannin thing, which I don't really like. This is where I think that Virginia and Chile has really kind of learned how to grow Cabernet correctly, and you do not have that pyrazine bell pepper taste, especially in this wine. Thank you very much for coming out tonight, and hopefully we will see you on a Zoom conference at 8 o'clock. Have a good one.
Buon appetito!